Sam Wilson stood at the viewport of the UNSC horizon, watching the distant stars with a troubled expression. 6 months since Earth had joined the Galactic Alliance, and already he had learned things that kept him awake at night. The void between the stars wasn't empty after all. "Captain, you should see this," called Lisa Grant from her science station. Her voice carried the edge of someone who had discovered something unwelcome. Sam moved to her station, where holographic displays showed a spreading darkness at the edge of the Andromeda arm. It looked like a stain of ink bleeding across the star map, consuming everything in its path. "The void has accelerated," Lisa said, pointing to the data streaming beside the image. "At current progression, it will reach the Arcturus system in 18 months, not 30 as the Alliance projected." Sam frowned. "Are you certain? The Alliance has been tracking this thing for decades." "I've run the calculations 3 times, Lisa replied. "Look at the density readings from the last 6 observation points." Her fingers traced a steadily rising curve. "The void is feeding, and it's getting faster." The void. Even the name seemed deliberately vague, as if the Alliance species preferred not to define it too carefully. They called it a cosmic anomaly, a natural phenomenon to be studied from a safe distance. But Sam had seen the classified reports, records of entire civilizations gone quiet as the darkness spread across their systems. "We need to take this to Alliance headquarters," Sam decided. The Grand Hall of the Alliance was built to intimidate with its scale. Delegates from 37 spacefaring civilizations sat in rising tiers around a central platform. Most weren't even remotely humanoid. Sam felt small as he and Lisa waited for their turn to present. Ambassador Ryan Miller, Earth's representative, nodded to them from his seat. At least one friendly face in the crowd. The presider, a tall blue-skinned Valyrian with 4 arms, finally acknowledged them. "The Alliance recognizes Captain Wilson and Science Officer Grant of Earth. You may present your findings." Lisa projected her data onto the main display. "Our observations indicate the void's expansion has accelerated by 63%. At current rates, inhabited systems will be threatened much sooner than previously calculated." A murmur rippled through the assembly. Sam stepped forward. "We recommend immediate formation of a task force to develop countermeasures. The void can be contained, possibly even reversed, but we need to act now." The presider's expression remained impassive. "The Alliance appreciates Earth's concern, but we have monitored the void for over 200 years. Our containment protocols have proven sufficient." Containment. Sam couldn't keep the disbelief from his voice. "You're just watching it consume star systems. Young species often react with alarm to cosmic phenomena they do not fully understand," said a reptilian delegate from the upper tiers. "The void is part of the galaxy's natural cycle. Direct intervention has proven unwise." Ambassador Miller intervened smoothly. "My colleagues from Earth speak with the enthusiasm of newcomers, but their data merits consideration. The data will be reviewed by the appropriate committee," the presider concluded. "This session is adjourned." Later, in the embassy's secure room, Ambassador Miller explained the reality to them. 3 species tried fighting the void before. None succeeded. The Dravidi lost their homeworld trying. The Alliance decided containment was the only viable strategy. "So they just sacrifice outer systems and retreat?" Sam asked. "They call it managed withdrawal," Miller replied. "Earth signed the Alliance Charter. We're bound by their consensus." Lisa looked up from her tablet. "The Alliance may have centuries to withdraw. Earth is in the void's path within decades if my calculations are correct." Sam's jaw tightened. "Then we need options beyond what the Alliance is willing to consider." "Careful, Captain," Miller warned. "Earth needs the Alliance." "Earth needs to survive," Sam countered. "And if the Alliance won't fight this battle, someone has to." The ambassador studied them both, then slowly nodded. "I'll arrange a direct channel to UNSC Command. They should hear this directly from you." As they left the embassy, Sam looked up at the unfamiliar stars. Somewhere out there, darkness was spreading. and no one wanted to fight it. No one except, perhaps, humans. Alan Cooper stood before the United Nations Space Command Council, his diplomatic uniform immaculate, despite his 30-hour journey from Alliance space. Behind him, Captain Sam Wilson and Science Officer Lisa Grant waited with their data ready. The Alliance has chosen containment over confrontation, Alan explained. They believe the void cannot be defeated, only avoided. Admiral Kate Morrison, her silver hair cut short above a face weathered by decades of service, leaned forward. "And you disagree with this assessment?" "I believe humanity should make its own judgment," Alan replied carefully. "The Alliance has experience we lack, but also centuries of established thinking that may limit their perspective." At the Admiral's nod, Lisa stepped forward and activated her presentation. The room darkened as a three-dimensional model of the void appeared, pulsing and spreading across star systems. "This is not a natural phenomenon," Lisa stated firmly. "It shows signs of intelligence, purpose. It's consuming energy from stars, planets, even background radiation, and it's accelerating toward populated regions." Sam added, "The Alliance species furthest from the void's path dominate policy. Earth doesn't have the luxury of centuries to prepare an evacuation." The council members exchanged glances. General Paul Howard, commander of Earth's Defense Forces, broke the silence. "What exactly are you proposing?" "We can't fight a battle the entire Alliance has deemed unwinnable." Admiral Morrison's eyes never left the display of the spreading darkness. "Sometimes the battles no one wants to fight are exactly the ones that must be fought." She turned to face the council. "I fought in the unification wars. Everyone said those conflicts were inevitable, necessary. But they were wrong. We found another way because we had to." She stood, her small frame somehow filling the room. "I propose we develop our own response to this threat, not in defiance of the Alliance, but as Earth's contribution to galactic security." The defense minister frowned. "The diplomatic implications will be managed," Alan interrupted. Several Alliance members privately expressed support for a more proactive approach. "They're constrained by consensus politics, not conviction." Admiral Morrison nodded to a woman seated in the shadows. "Dr. Olivia Chen, explain Project Firebreak." The scientist stepped into the light. "We've been analyzing the void's energy signature since receiving the first Alliance data package. It absorbs energy in specific patterns, suggesting a fundamental structure we might disrupt." She displayed designs for a massive device. "This is the Sunforge. It would concentrate and modify stellar energy into a form the void cannot process. Theoretical models suggest it could create a barrier the void cannot cross, or potentially even reverse its expansion." General Howard studied the designs. "The resource requirements are enormous." "So does the threat," Morrison countered. The council debated for hours. Eventually, the UNSC president called for a vote. The result: a narrow approval to proceed with Project Firebreak. As they left the chamber, an Alliance representative approached them. The Zanari diplomat's translucent skin pulsed with warning colors. "You don't understand what you're considering," he said quietly. "The Nectari tried technology similar to your Sunforge 3 centuries ago. Their entire civilization vanished in a single day." Sam stepped forward. "Did anyone try again, with improvements?" "No one dared," the Zanari admitted. "That's the difference," Admiral Morrison said. "Humans dare when others retreat. Sometimes it kills us. Sometimes it saves everyone." The Zanari's colors shifted to a contemplative blue. "I will report your decision to the Alliance. Some will consider this reckless. Others—" He paused. "Others might secretly hope you succeed where they failed." As the diplomat departed, Lisa turned to Sam. "Do you think we're making a mistake?" Sam watched Admiral Morrison walking ahead with Dr. Chen, already discussing implementation details. "I think we're doing what humans have always done, refusing to accept the inevitable until we've tried everything possible to change it." "Even if it means fighting a battle no one else wants to fight?" Alan asked. "Especially then," Sam replied. Jupiter loomed large through the viewport, its swirling storms providing a dramatic backdrop for humanity's greatest military assembly. 117 warships orbited the gas giant, far from prying eyes, yet close enough to Earth for rapid supply lines. Commander Ben Hayes stood on the bridge of the UNSC Dauntless, watching smaller vessels shuttle between the larger ships. His reputation as a tactical genius had earned him command of the fleet's offensive wing, though he had never anticipated facing an enemy like the Void. "Impressive, isn't it?" came a voice from behind him. Ben turned to find engineer Maria Ramirez observing the same view, her dark eyes reflecting the lights of the fleet. Her hands bore the calluses of someone who worked with more than just holographic interfaces. "Most impressive thing I've ever seen," Ben admitted. "Yet I keep asking myself if it's enough." Maria smiled. "That's why I'm here. The Sunforge isn't just a weapon. It's a completely new approach to energy manipulation." She pulled up a schematic on the nearest display. "We're not trying to destroy the Void with brute force. We're changing the rules of the game." The schematic showed a massive array of interconnected rings, designed to capture stellar energy and convert it into something entirely new. "How's the testing going?" Ben asked. "See for yourself," Maria replied, changing the display to a live feed from the testing range near Callisto. A smaller version of the Sunforge activated, capturing energy from powerful emitters meant to simulate stellar output. The device processed this power, transforming it into brilliant white beams that seemed to fold space where they touched a test field. "That field contains energy similar to what we've detected at the Void's edge," Maria explained. "Watch what happens when they interact." The white beams didn't destroy the dark energy field. They converted it, transforming it into harmless radiation that dissipated naturally. "We've achieved 70% efficiency in the lab," Maria said with unmistakable pride. "The full-scale version should be even more effective." Their conversation was interrupted by a priority alert. A delegation had arrived from Alliance Space. In the fleet's command center, Admiral Morrison received the unexpected visitors. 3 species were represented: a Zenari diplomat, a hulking Barosian engineer, and a scholarly tailor. "The Alliance officially condemns Earth's independent action," the Zenari began, skin flickering with diplomatic colors. "However, we are here unofficially, representing members who disagree with the majority position." The Barosian stepped forward, voice rumbling from multiple speech organs. "My people fought the Void 1,000 years ago. We lost 3 worlds before retreating. Our data from that conflict has never been shared with the full Alliance. We offer it to you now." The tailor added, "Several Alliance members are quietly preparing support vessels. They will rendezvous with your fleet near the Void's perimeter, should you proceed." Admiral Morrison studied the aliens carefully. "Why help us now, after telling everyone this battle can't be won?" "Fear," the Zenari said simply. "Fear of another failure. Fear of the Void's reprisal. Humans lack this historical trauma. You still believe victory is possible." "And you?" Morrison asked. "Do you believe it's possible?" The 3 aliens exchanged glances before the Zenari spoke. "We believe it is necessary to try again. The containment strategy merely delays inevitable confrontation." Later that night, as the fleet continued preparations, Communications Officer Rick Jordan detected an unusual transmission. It came through Alliance channels, but originated from an unknown source at the edge of known space. The message was brief. "The Void is not what you think. Before you fight, you must understand what you face. Coordinates attached. Come alone." Sam Wilson studied the message alongside Lisa Grant in his ready room. "It could be a trap," Lisa warned. "Or critical intelligence," Sam countered. "Either way, we need to know." He made his decision. "Prepare a small scout vessel. We'll investigate while the fleet continues preparation." "Admiral Morrison won't like us leaving before the mission," Lisa said. Sam nodded grimly. "Better to ask forgiveness than permission when the stakes are this high." As they left to prepare, A notification chimed on Sam's console. The final Sunforge component had been completed. The countdown to humanity's greatest battle had begun. Sam Wilson guided the scout ship through the debris field of what had once been a thriving star system. Beside him, Lisa Grant monitored sensor readings, her face illuminated by the glow of instrument panels. "Life signs detected," she reported, surprise evident in her voice. "Faint, but definitely there. On the third moon of that gas giant." Sam adjusted their course. As they approached, they saw it, a small outpost built into the moon's surface, partially hidden beneath dust and rock. It showed signs of advanced technology, but nothing matching Alliance designs. "We're being scanned," Lisa warned. A voice crackled over their communication system. "Approach and dock at the designated coordinates. Come unarmed, or don't come at all." Sam exchanged a glance with Lisa. "Not much choice if we want answers." The docking procedure was automated, pulling their ship into a well-concealed hangar. As the airlock cycled, they prepared to meet whoever had summoned them. The door slid open to reveal a startling sight: a tall, insect-like being flanked by two humanoids. The insectoid's chitinous body gleamed under the harsh lighting, compound eyes reflecting fractured images of the humans. "I am Exortic," the being clicked. "Last speaker for the Krell Collective." "The Krell," Lisa whispered. "The Alliance database lists your species as extinct." "Nearly, but not completely," Tortik replied. "We are the survivors of the first major engagement with what you call the Void. We tried to warn the others." One of the humanoids stepped forward. His features were human, but something about his movements suggested he wasn't. "My name is Daniel Foster. My ancestors were human researchers who discovered this outpost decades ago. They stayed to learn from the Krell." Sam studied the man carefully. "You sent the message." Daniel nodded. "The Alliance narrative about the Void is incomplete. Before you commit your species to this battle, you need to understand what you're actually fighting." They were led through tunnels into a large chamber filled with technology far more advanced than Earth's. At the center stood a containment field holding something that defied easy description: a swirling mass of darkness that seemed to absorb the light around it. "A piece of the Void," Tortik explained. "Captured during our last encounter." Lisa approached cautiously. "It's alive." "More than alive," Daniel replied. "It's conscious. The Void isn't a natural phenomenon, or even a singular entity. It's a collective consciousness comprised of countless individual intelligences." Zortik clicked its mandibles. "They were once like us, physical beings. They transcended their physical forms but retained their hunger for energy. They consume stars and planets not out of malice but necessity." Sam frowned. "If they're intelligent, why can't we communicate? Negotiate?" "We tried," Daniel said. "Watch." He activated a recording showing previous attempts at communication. The images showed various approaches: mathematical sequences, universal physical constants, even direct neural interfaces. Each attempt ended with the same result. The Void entity absorbed the energy from the communication devices without response. "Their consciousness operates on fundamentally different principles," Sortik explained. "They perceive our attempts at communication as merely another form of energy to consume." Lisa studied the contained entity with newfound fascination. But if they were once physical beings, there must be some common frame of reference. "There is," Daniel confirmed. "The Krell developed a partial translation matrix before they were forced to retreat. We've spent generations refining it." He displayed a complex algorithm. "This allows limited interaction with their consciousness. We've learned they don't perceive themselves as destroyers. They believe they're transforming energy into something higher, more perfect." "Can they be reasoned with?" Sam asked. Zortik's compound eyes seemed to dim. "Not in ways you would recognize. They understand only the language of energy flows." "Then what's the point of understanding them if we can't negotiate?" Sam asked. Daniel's expression grew determined. "Because you can't defeat an enemy you don't understand." Your Sunforge weapon. Yes, we know about it. Might work, but not for the reasons you think. And there may be a better way than simple destruction. What way? Lisa asked. Transformation, Daniel replied. The void entities can be changed rather than destroyed, but it requires precise application of energy modulated by consciousness. Sam looked at the contained fragment of void. You're saying we need to communicate with it through the Sunforge. I'm saying, Daniel answered, that the battle no one wanted to fight might not need to be a battle at all. The news of Captain Wilson's discovery spread through the Alliance like wildfire. In the great spherical chamber of the Meridian Council, representatives from 37 spacefaring civilizations argued loudly over what to do next. The humans have gone too far, bellowed the Voraxian delegate, his massive fists pounding the lectern. First they build weapons without authorization. Now they make contact with a quarantine species. Ambassador Ryan Miller stood calmly in the center of the storm. The Krell were never officially quarantined. They were listed as extinct in your own records. Deliberately so, hissed a serpentine Slack representative. The knowledge they possess about the void is dangerous. It encourages hope. The chamber fell silent at this admission. And what exactly is wrong with hope? Ryan asked quietly. The Zenari diplomat, skin flashing colors of distress, stepped forward. Hope leads to action. Action against the void has always ended in disaster. Perhaps because you never had the right approach, Ryan countered. Captain Wilson's report indicates the Krell have spent centuries developing methods to communicate with the void entities. Combined with our Sunforge technology, we might resolve this without destruction on either side. The Alliance High Commander, a stoic tailor with eyes that had witnessed centuries of galactic politics, finally spoke. The Meridian Council's official position remains unchanged. The void is to be contained, not confronted. Earth's actions are not sanctioned. Ryan nodded respectfully. We understand your position. Earth will proceed independently. Then you proceed alone, the High Commander stated. But as Ryan turned to leave, the Barosian representative stood. Barrows will provide support vessels to the human fleet. His pronouncement sent shockwaves through the chamber. As will Zenari, added their diplomat, skin now pulsing with determined blue. One by one, the 11 species declared their support for Earth's mission. The Alliance was splitting apart over the human initiative. Meanwhile, at the edge of the void's expansion, Captain Wilson and Science Officer Grant had rejoined the human fleet with Daniel Foster and the Krell representative Exortic. They gathered in the strategy room of the fleet flagship with Admiral Morrison and the key mission leaders. The void's weakness is in its transformation process, Lisa explained, displaying the data they'd gathered. It converts matter and energy into its own substance, but the process requires a specific sequence. Daniel Foster stepped forward. The Krell discovered that this sequence can be disrupted, causing the void entities to revert to a dormant state. But we need to get close enough to implement this disruption, Sam added. And the void doesn't take kindly to visitors. Admiral Morrison studied the tactical display showing the fleet's formation. Then we'll need to create a diversion. Draw their attention while a smaller group delivers the payload. Engineer Maria Ramirez frowned at the schematics. The Sunforge wasn't designed for this kind of precise modulation. We'd need to recalibrate the entire system. I can help with that, Ortic offered, compound eyes gleaming. Krell mathematics can solve the modulation problem. Commander Ben Hayes looked skeptical. We're betting everything on a theory from a nearly extinct species and technology we barely understand. Sometimes faith is required to achieve the impossible, Admiral Morrison replied quietly. The discussion was interrupted by an alert. Void entities had been detected approaching the fleet's position. They've noticed us, Sam said grimly. The main view screen activated, showing the darkness spreading toward them. Tendrils of void matter reaching out like curious fingers. Battle stations, ordered Admiral Morrison. This isn't a drill. The first engagement with the void was brief but instructive. A small scout ship was enveloped before it could retreat. The crew watched in horror as the vessel's energy was drained in seconds, communications cutting off mid-transmission. But the data gathered was invaluable. The void entities reacted precisely as the Krell had predicted, following specific patterns of energy consumption. We can predict their movements, Lisa realized as she analyzed the sensor readings. They're drawn to energy sources in a hierarchical pattern. Daniel Foster nodded grimly. Which means we can create a path of breadcrumbs, leading them exactly where we want them to go. Sam looked at Admiral Morrison. We have our strategy. Now we just need to implement it before the Void realizes what we're doing. How long do we have? The Admiral asked. Lisa studied the data streaming across her console. At current expansion rates, 48 hours before they reached the fleet's main position. The bridge of the UNSC Horizon hummed with tension as Admiral Kate Morrison arrived. Officers snapped to attention, but her focus remained on the tactical display showing the fleet's formation. Status report, she ordered. Sam Wilson stepped forward. The Sunforge is at 97% capability. Engineer Ramirez and Exortic have completed the modifications based on the Krell communication matrix. And our allies? The Admiral asked. 11 Alliance vessels have joined our position, Commander Hayes reported. They've integrated into our defensive grid surprisingly well. The fleet had arranged itself in a complex pattern, with the Sunforge at its center surrounded by 3 rings of defensive vessels. Beyond them, smaller ships were positioned at specific coordinates, each carrying energy emitters that would serve as decoys. The Void entities have changed course, Lisa Grant announced from her station. They're responding to our energy signature. Estimated contact in 2 hours. Admiral Morrison studied the approaching darkness visible on long-range sensors. Commence final preparations. I want all non-essential personnel transferred to the rear guard vessels. As the orders were relayed, Maria Ramirez made her final adjustments to the Sunforge controls. Daniel Foster stood beside her, his expression troubled. Having second thoughts? Maria asked, not looking up from her work. The Void entities were once beings like us, Daniel replied. What we're attempting could be seen as a form of genocide. Maria paused her work, or salvation. Your own research suggests they don't exist in a state of full consciousness anymore. They're trapped in an endless cycle of consumption. True, Daniel conceded, but who are we to decide their fate? We're the ones they're about to consume, Commander Hayes interjected, joining their conversation. Sometimes there are no perfect choices in battle, only necessary ones. The discussion ended as a new alert sounded. A signal was emanating from the Void. We're receiving a transmission, Communications Officer Rick Jordan reported with surprise. It's using a variation of the Krell communication protocol. Put it through, ordered Admiral Morrison. The main view screen flickered, showing not images but patterns of light and dark that pulsed with strange rhythm. The ship's computer attempted to translate the alien communication into something understandable. We PE or CEIV your intent. You seek to ALT or US. Why? Sam looked at Daniel, who stepped forward. We seek to prevent the destruction of our worlds. Your consumption destroys life. The patterns shifted, becoming more complex. Consumption is TRANSFORMATYN. Lower energy forms BCOMA higher. This is natural law. But we don't wish to be transformed, Lisa argued. We have our own path of development. ARELEVANT. All energy CE case highest form. We are that form. Admiral Morrison stepped forward. If you continue your expansion, we will be forced to implement our defensive measures. We would prefer a mutual agreement. The screen darkened momentarily before new patterns emerged. Agreement requires EQUALity. You are not EQAL. You are energy to be harvested. The transmission ended abruptly. Moments later, the Void's advance accelerated. They're coming in fast, warned Commander Hayes. Multiple entity formations detected. They understood us perfectly, Daniel said grimly. They just don't care. Admiral Morrison straightened her uniform. Then we proceed as planned. Deploy the decoy vessels. Bring the Sunforge to full power. Across the fleet, crews moved with practiced precision. The smaller vessels moved into position, their energy signatures amplified to attract the void entities. Sam found himself standing beside Lisa as they watched the approaching darkness. I never expected my first alien contact to end in battle, Lisa said quietly. Maybe it doesn't have to, Sam replied. The Sunforge isn't designed just to destroy, it's designed to transform. Maybe that's what they need to understand. The plan was intricate. The decoy vessels would draw the void entities into a specific pattern. Then, at the crucial moment, the Sunforge would activate, not as a weapon of destruction, but as a tool of transformation. As the darkness enveloped the first line of decoy ships, Admiral Morrison gave the order that would define humanity's place in galactic history. All vessels, execute final maneuvers. Sunforge control. Prepare for primary activation. The greatest battle humans had ever fought, the one no other species had dared to fight, had begun, and its outcome would decide the fate of countless worlds. The darkness of the void swirled around the human fleet, tendrils of energy-hungry matter reaching toward the ships. The decoy vessels had performed their function, drawing the entities into the precise formation needed for the Sunforge to work. All decoys have reported successful positioning, Commander Hayes announced, his voice steady despite the chaos visible on the view screens. Void entities are following the energy trail exactly as predicted. Admiral Morrison nodded. Begin Sunforge activation sequence. On the engineering deck, Maria Ramirez and Exortic worked in perfect synchronization, their differences in biology and background irrelevant in the face of their shared purpose. Matrix stabilization at optimal levels, Maria reported. Beginning energy collection phase. The massive Sunforge rings began to spin, gathering energy from the nearby star. Light poured into the device, transformed by the intricate mechanisms built according to both human ingenuity and Krell wisdom. On the bridge, Sam watched the tactical display with growing concern. The void entities are adapting their approach. They've recognized the pattern. How long until they break formation? Admiral Morrison demanded. Lisa checked her readings. 4 minutes, maybe less. We need at least 6 minutes for full Sunforge activation. Maria's voice came through the comms. Daniel Foster, who had been monitoring the Void's communications, suddenly straightened. They're sending another message. Once again, the strange patterns appeared on the view screen, translating into words that felt alien despite being in English. We aavexisted for Nileniania. UKANNOTCHANG what we are. Admiral Morrison stepped forward. We don't seek to destroy you, only to help you evolve beyond consumption. Evolution is our choice, not yours. The message ended, and immediately the Void's attack intensified. 3 defensive vessels disappeared in seconds, consumed by the darkness. We're losing containment, Hayes shouted. They're breaking the pattern. Admiral Morrison made a decision that would change everything. Direct all power from the flagship to the Sunforge. We'll buy the time needed for activation. That would leave the Horizon defenseless, Sam objected. The Admiral's face showed no hesitation. Sometimes the battle chooses its sacrifices, Captain Wilson. Execute the order. Power began flowing from the flagship to the Sunforge, leaving the UNSC Horizon vulnerable. The Void entities sensed the change and swarmed toward the weakened vessel. Sunforge at 80%, Maria reported. 2 more minutes to full capacity. On the bridge, Admiral Morrison ordered all non-essential personnel to evacuation pods. Captain Wilson, you and Officer Grant transfer to the secondary command vessel. Sam stood his ground. With respect, Admiral, my place is here. A rare smile crossed Morrison's face. I thought you might say that. Very well. The darkness surrounded the horizon, tendrils touching its hull and beginning to absorb its energy. System after system failed as the ship's power was drained. Sunforge at 95%, came Maria's voice, now static-filled and breaking up, initiating final sequence. In the heart of the Sunforge, the transformed energy reached critical mass. Light that was somehow more than light burst forth in a carefully modulated wave, striking the void entities at precisely calculated points. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the darkness began to change. The void entities didn't vanish or explode. Instead, they transformed, their energy patterns shifting from consumption to a new state of being. The blackness became translucent, then transparent, finally radiating with soft blue light. "It's working," Lisa whispered in awe. "They're changing." The transformation spread like a wave through the void, entity after entity evolving into the new state. Their movement patterns change, no longer reaching to consume, but instead pulsing with what seemed almost like curiosity. The UNSC Horizon, though severely damaged, had survived long enough to see the change. Admiral Morrison watched the spectacle with quiet satisfaction. "Send a message to Earth," she ordered. "The battle is over. We didn't need to destroy them after all." In the days that followed, the transformed entities began to communicate in ways the humans and their allies could understand. They explained that for millennia, they had been trapped in an endless cycle of hunger, unable to evolve further without outside intervention. 3 months later, representatives from all Alliance species gathered at the site of the battle. There, around the damaged but still functional Sunforge, they established a new coalition. Human, Krell, and the newly named Luminous, formerly the Void, worked together to ensure peace.